Long ago, there was a scholar named Meng Tianlong who lived in poverty, approaching 30 and unmarried. He envied others' couples and daydreamed of a future wife as a peerless beauty, though he knew it was mere fantasy. Meng had a close friend, Hu Kaiyi, who lived alone in the capital. Though they hadn't seen each other for years, they exchanged letters regularly. One year, Meng went to the capital for the imperial exam and happened to meet Zhu were reuniting in a foreign land. Both were extremely excited. After the exam, Zhu warmly invited Meng to stay at his home for a few days and show him around. Meng gladly accepted. Zhu was also single. The residence he rented was in front of a brothel, where painted courtesans often stood at the door to greet clients, laughing and charming passers-by. Meng would always let his imagination run wild at the sight. In their free time, the two would also discuss matters of love and relationships. It was like a mix of joking and self-mockery. Having lived for decades without any real contact with women, Meng's curiosity grew, causing him to toss and turn sleeplessly. One day, with nothing much to do, the two went to the suburbs for a stroll. Unwittingly, they entered a desolate mountain. Though remote, the scenery was breathtaking, a paradise with birds singing, flowers blooming, and few human traces, like a hidden paradise. As they walked, a dilapidated temple appeared ahead. It was small and old, seemingly uninhabited. Entering the gate, they saw only an old monk sweeping the yard. The monk warmly greeted them. Tired from walking, Hu asked the monks to show them around. The monk led them to the main hall, where the walls were covered in exquisitely painted murals, so lifelike that the two scholars marveled. As the monks guided them deeper, Meng suddenly noticed a mural on the east wall, a young girl with flowing hair, pure-faced and big eyes that seemed to speak. She was stunning, like a fairy from heaven. Meng was instantly captivated, standing spellbound and staring up at her, forgetting to follow the monks. Not sure how much time passed, Meng felt dizzy and lightheaded. To his shock, he began floating as if on clouds. Before he could react, his body hurtled toward the mural. He gasped and shut his eyes. When he opened his eyes, he was inside the mural. The surroundings were filled with an ethereal mist. Unlike the mortal world, a group of people sat listening to an old monk preaching, and Meng found himself among them. He couldn't understand a word of the sermon. Just as he turned to leave, a girl stood up and walked forward. She turned her head slightly, and Meng's heart skipped a beat. It was the same flowing-haired girl from the mural. Without thinking, he followed her. They wandered through wine-covered fences until a mansion appeared. The girl entered, then paused at the door, turned, smiled, and beckoned to him, as if she'd known he was following. Meng followed her into a tidy room, fragrant with exotic scents, clearly a boudoir. His heart racing, he swept her into his arms and carried her to the bed. Afterwards, the girl rose shyly, closed the door, and reminded him to stay quiet. Meng nodded and fell into a deep sleep, dreaming of her. That night, the girls returned, and they spent another intimate night together. Days passed in this bliss. Meng was so enchanted, he forgot all about returning. However, after a few days, some companions noticed the girl's unusual behavior. They secretly followed her home and discovered Meng hiding in her room. The girl with flowing hair blushed with embarrassment. One of her companions joked, "After living like a fairy for a few days, I'm sure you must be pregnant by now. Do you still need to keep this hairstyle? Why don't you change it? You're not the same as us anymore." Note, in ancient China, women's hairstyles were closely linked to adulthood and marriage. A change in hairstyle often symbolized a change in social status. The girl rushed to cover her friend's mouth, fearing others would hear. Once her companion fell silent, the girl took out a hairpin and styled her hair into a large bun, instantly appearing more charming. After the companions left, Meng found the girl with the buns more mature and charming than before. He couldn't resist embracing her affectionately as they reveled in their happiness. Heavy footsteps suddenly shook the ground outside. The girl started and peered out with Meng. A giant over 10 feet tall strode into the courtyard, his face flushed and fierce, wielding chains and a hammer, surrounded by people including some of the girl's companions. His thunderous voice demanded, "Have you seen that mortal? He doesn't belong here. We must eliminate him. If you hide him, you'll face severe punishment." The crowd shook with fear, shaking their heads in unison. "We've seen nothing." The girl, panic-stricken, hastily told Meng, "Hide under the bed." Heart pounding, Meng crawled under as the girl rushed out, blending into the crowd. The clanking of chains grew louder. The giant was still searching. As the noise neared, Meng's tension mounted. Then the door burst open with a bang. He froze, too terrified to breathe. Meanwhile, Zhu and the old monk were in the main hall when they turned and found Meng missing, who anxiously asked where his friend was. The old monk smiled and said, "He's off on his own adventure. Time for him to return." With that, he struck the eastern wall firmly. Slowly, Meng's image emerged from the mural. To Zhu's astonishment, Meng suddenly dropped from the mural. Meng opened his eyes to find himself back in the mortal world, with Zhu and the old monk before him. It turned out that when the giant discovered Meng hiding under the bed, Meng heard to loud bangs followed by a gust of wind. When he opened his eyes, he was lying in the temple. Those two bangs were the sounds of the old monk striking the wall. Zhu helped Meng to his feet, and they hurried away. Before leaving, Meng glanced at the eastern wall again. The girl with hanging hair in the mural had indeed transformed into a woman with a bun, just like the married women in reality. So, was all of this a fantasy or reality?